Okay, I want to talk a little bit about reproduction weapons and give you some quick and easy pointers how to spot them quickly. This is so if you're at a toy show, a garage sale, flea market, somewhere where you need to make a split-second decision to buy a figure or not to buy a figure, or how much to pay for it. These are little tells that you can look for. We'll start out with the pilot's blaster. Here we have the two real ones on the right and the reproduction one on the left. Look for this tiny indented circle on the handle. The real ones will have it, the reproduction one will not. There are some new reproduction ones I've seen lately that do kind of have a slight indentation, but they also have flashing, the extra plastic, sticking out all over the place. So if you see this without the circle, or with a lot of extra flashing from the mold, reproduction. It said real ones will have the spot. The Leia blaster, same kind of thing. Real one on the top, you'll see this little indentation on the handle. The real one will have it, the reproduction will not. There also is another horizontal line here on the barrel. On the real one, the fake one, the reproduction one, does not have it. It's totally flat on the side. Like I said, if you see this circle, more than likely it's a real one. You don't see this circle, more than likely a reproduction. Sabers. This applies to all the colors of the saber. Luke's yellow, green, and blue. Whenever you see a hilt, the top of the hilt here, that is round on the top and the bottom, reproduction, dead giveaway. The real ones, none of them have a rounded top. They're all flat on the top. The base of the top of the hilt can differ between the real ones, but like I said, none of them will have a round top and bottom. You'll also see a little bit of a difference with the sharpness of the circles. The real one's sharper, the reproduction is kind of softer. Color differences, like I said, easy to tell here when they're side by side. If you're out just looking at one, you know we don't have anything to compare it with, but here we see the rounded hilt, automatically know reproduction, so don't pay a lot of money for this. R2's little pop-up saber. This is a costly little item to accidentally buy if it's reproduction. Quickest way on this is if you ever see a seam line here on the mold, this is a reproduction. The real one does not have that noticeable seam line. Here also, if we look more closely at it, you'll see an injection mark on the real lightsaber. It's missing on the reproduction. The reproduction one is also painted instead of a molded plastic. Like I said, here side to side, easy to tell, but you know, if you're just looking at it yourself or you're looking at a picture, maybe you can't see the color real well, you see that line, you automatically know it's not worth paying a lot of money for. Some of the less obvious weapons, especially if you're just looking at photos, if you have these in hand, it's a little bit easier to tell. The Wicket Ramba spear, Chief Chirpa's staff, and also Paplu's staff, any of the wooden weapons basically. The real ones are molded color, so it's this plastic is this color through and through. The reproduction ones, they're painted, so they have a little bit more sheen on them. If you're looking at a camera lens, or if you do it with the light, you'll see a little bit more reflection. Also, if you have it in hand and you just give it a little feel, you'll notice that it's pretty rigid. The real ones are a lot more pliable and flexible. Subtle differences in the molds as well, but like I said, this is for a quick look. These, like I said, to me they just look painted and they're easier to tell. So those are the only weapons that have really easy tells. Sometimes you'll see the Jawa blasters or even Leia's guns, the Rebel blasters, you'll see them in a gray color. Anything you see in a gray color like that is automatically a reproduction. The Bestman blasters, you can't make the same assumption because Squidhead's blaster is gray. So we don't want to necessarily think that, oh yeah, you know, that's the wrong color, that can't be right, we're looking for a blue one. The thing we can look for on the Bespin blasters, and I don't have a reproduction one to show you, but if you're looking at them and see how this is indented here on the top of the barrel, if you ever see one that instead of being indented it actually comes out, that is a reproduction. When they cast it, they did it in reverse, like I said, so you'll see this part come out instead of in. So if you see an outie, it's a reproduction. Any decent chance it's real. Said any other thing, let me see. I don't have any of the reproductions for the in-arm lightsabers, and these are a harder one to tell as well. Some of them, the early reproductions were painted. So you could tell those a little more. They looked painted. They were obviously fake. Some of the newer ones, they're actually molded plastic or molded, and they're much harder to tell the difference between a real and a reproduction. The thing to look for is if you see a lightsaber and you see letters on it, it's real. I've yet to see a reproduction lightsaber that has the early lettering. That doesn't mean to say that, you know, if you don't see the lettering, it's a fake. Only the early lightsabers came out with lettering. The later models came out and they didn't have any letters at them all. So that the ones with the letters are very early issues. And yeah, the lightsabers are harder to tell because there's a lot of color differences. These things tended to fade a lot. So, I mean, we can have several ones that are real that have different colors. Yeah, flip it over. Yeah, this one you can see the different colors, but it is a genuine lightsaber. Here's Luke's that looks way too yellow, but it isn't. We have the letters on there. It's just, you know, they come in all sorts of little colors. Sometimes if you see one that is really transparent, they do have one version that is transparent, but when they reissued these, the 4-pack, I think it was 95, maybe a little later, they used the same molds, but they use a much more transparent plastic, and they were really, really bendable. So hopefully this will give you a better chance of finding a real weapon when you're out there in the wild and looking. If you do get a reproduction weapon, you know, not the end of the world as long as you didn't pay 50 bucks for it. But the reproduction weapons, yeah, you know, they do have a purpose. You know, I see people online, they burn the weapons and make a great party out of it. The only thing you learn by burning these is that they're flammable. That's it. You keep them in a little pile. You can reference them later, you know, if you're looking at weapons comparing. If you're giving action figures to your kids, give them reproductions. You know, little Leia, if her gun gets lost in 3 weeks or sucked up the vacuum cleaner, you know, you're not going to care. It's a reproduction weapon. So give them to kids. You know, if you can't find, you know, the real Leia gun, if you don't want to shell out, you know, 60, 70 bucks for it, whatever it's going for now, there it is. You know, display purposes, use your reproduction. That's what they were created for. I mean, don't try to deceive people with them, but they do have a use. Like I said, hopefully you can more easily identify these on the spot and it will help someone out.